Welcome back, Cool Toy Review audience. This is our finale of our Path to the Pack series. If it wasn't too subtle of a clue last week, we said we'd be doing something that would tie it all together, and of course, we meant the belt. So today we're going to be going over what this belt is, and the types of different accessories that you might want to put on it depending on what kind of Ghostbuster look you're going for. And we'll give you a little bit of an explanation on each one of those, and we'll give you an extra bonus look at that amazing belt gizmo we did back in week 1. So why don't we get started by taking a closer look at this belt. Well, here we have a close-up of the belt. The belt is an M1936 model belt that was worn in World War II by the U.S. Army, I believe. Nothing other than that special about the belt that you really need for your costume. It just needs to be a light gray in caliber. Fun fact, the ones worn in the film were actually replicas as well. So getting a replica of a replica, I guess, in this case. We found them to be easily acquired through Amazon or a lot of other military surplus sites. Again, we got ours from gbfans.com. We'll have a link up there if you want to try to find yours. They're relatively inexpensive, easy part of the costume, but also very essential. So you definitely want to make sure you pick this thing up because it's going to be holding all of your little gadgets and accessories, which we'll get into now. Okay, well now that we gave you an overview of the base belt itself, we're going to start talking about some different kinds of accessories that go on the belt. Now, we modeled ours, has been consistent through this Path to the Pack series. Everything's modeled after Egon Spangler's equipment and setup, so we'll be continuing that theme today. But obviously, you can make it your own by adding additional components. So first up on the line here is the Motorola MT500 walkie-talkie. Let's give you a close-up on this guy and explain what exactly this is. Alright, so the Motorola MT500 was the handheld walkie-talkie that you saw in the movies when they were at the Cedric Hotel communicating with each other. You can find a lot of these as replicas online or on Etsy, where they're basically just 3D printed models. This is an actual Motorola MT500. We just found this one on eBay. The battery's gone, so it doesn't work. But for the sake of costuming, it works just fine. We don't need a functional radio. Now, the original MT500s we saw that were authentic all came with longer antenna. So you're going to have to find a sort of shorter or stubbier one to fit on there to more replicate the look of the movie. We found ours on Etsy, relatively inexpensive, and it fit the port perfectly, so there were no modifications needed. And we also found a leather case to hold the MT500 on our belt on Etsy as well. All right, so we're back here, continuing our way around. We'll go counterclockwise on this. We come up to the key fobs, or the belt dongles, or whatever you want to call them. There's an assortment of different styles for doing different things, which we'll go over in a minute. We have two different versions here. We originally had the one from gbfans.com. We just this week got the one from Ecto Labs. I think it's much more accurate. If you look at a lot of the screenshots, defer to whatever your preference is on it. It comes in around the same price point. It just has a much more screen accurate look, and I think honestly, I think it's a lot better too. Plus, you get a whole pack of them. It's just the individual ones that you can acquire from gbfans.com. I'll have links for both of them up. Of course, you can take a look at them. These aren't offered as frequently, the ones from EctoLabs, so they're a little bit harder to get. But again, as with the belt gizmo, we tend to be consistently impressed with the EctoLabs products when it comes to the Ghostbusters costuming replicas. Why don't we give you a close-up of these, and we're kind of explaining what each one is for. The first one, you see the largest of them. This was for when anyone hooks a neutrino wand up to their belt. You see Egon use this in the hallway at the Cedric Hotel when they were looking for Slimer. When he switches over to his PKE meter, he hooks the wand up to the belt instead of back on the pack, and this is the hook for it, essentially. The second one, the one in the middle there, that's used for when Ray hooks his ecto goggles onto the belt. This is the setup there. And the last one on the right was seen toward the end of the movie on Egon's belt as well, in place of the neutrona wand hookup. It's not really used for anything, and it's basically just the first one without the bottom hook on it. So nothing unique there. Didn't really have any purpose in the film. Maybe the bottom piece fell off during filming, unknown. But these were the three kinds of styles that we're seeing in Ghostbusters. So like we were just saying with the key fobs, there's that scene where Egon's in the hallway of the Citric Hotel, and he hangs up his neutrona wand on his belt and takes out his PKE meter. So we have to mention this as a piece of equipment since we're sticking with Egon and something Egon used. Now, this wasn't actually mounted on the belt. You just see him using this. You don't see it mounted on the Proton Pack or anywhere. So I think he just takes it out of one of the pockets on the uniform we showed you last week. So if you keep it authentic to the movie, you're not going to mount this on your belt. You can, of course, acquire a variety of different holders off eBay or Etsy where you could put the PKE meter in order to keep it on your belt, if you so desire. This is the Ruby's one, I believe, or maybe it was Spirit Halloween. You can still get these at Target, Walmart, or a variety of places online for about 20 bucks. It's a pretty decent PKE meter. The best one out there is probably the Matty Collector one, but you're looking at dropping $300 or $400 now for that because it's discontinued and a collector's item. It kind of has like a variable stage rating where you can adjust it, whereas this only has one mode really. Pretty simple. You just kind of hit the button here, and it does the beeping, and it goes through its whole little segment. You can turn it off, or you can let it beep faster and faster, but that's really the only function it has. Nothing really appears on the screen except a couple of light dots. But it's basic if you're just looking for something to add to the costume without costing an arm and a leg. This is easy to pick up. Like we said, we just grabbed it at Target for 20 bucks. The only thing is it had this weird belt mount on the side of it. This was simple enough. We just took off the screws here and then took the screw off here to remove the mount, and then it keeps it looking more screen accurate that way. Hopefully, as Ghostbusters becomes more popular, as demonstrated by the pack, Hasbro will revisit and do some of these things. We'd like to see a more accurate PKE done in a collector quality. Same with the Ecto goggles, same with the Ghost Trap. So time will tell. All right, so we made our way around. We have our walkie-talkie, and then we have our key fob. Just of note, last week we talked about the gloves, and you see a couple scenes where they rest them in the front of the belt, like right here, just flapped over. While it's not really a permanent accessory of the belt, it's something you can do on the belt. The last thing we're going to be covering, we're not covering the trap because the trap was something that Ray wore and not Egon. If you want to get that, you need to buy like a trap holster and put that on here. You can find those on gbfans.com. But the last thing we're going to focus on is the belt gizmo. It's a huge part of the belt. It's a huge part of the uniform. It's one of the more difficult things to find a good replica of, or any kind of kit. We had a whole segment dedicated to this. It was the first article we did in Path to the Pack. And this is one of the most amazing ones we found out there, done by EctoLabs. It's an excellent replica of the old Sanyo calculator. And it just not only captures all those details, it's actually a real working circuit board as well. So you get some really cool features with it that we could show you for the first time here because we couldn't do it in the photography. So I'm going to bring you really tight in on this so you could see it up close and get all that detail in there. As you can see on the little Nixie shelf here with all the tubes, this is the default mode where it's just a rainbow assortment of colors. But you could change, there's some buttons up here on the inside that you will put in during assembly along with the power switch, and it allows you to change the color scheme and the sequence. So here's one of the sequences, just a quick flash over to the error box as well will be lighting up. Here's another slower sequence. A back and forth pulse. Now, like we said, there was really no predefined purpose of this in the movie. It was just kind of understood or assumed that this would be helping sync up the Proton Pack, monitoring it for any power fluctuations. anything along that nature. I don't believe it actually lit up in the movie, but this is a pretty cool feature to have. It just adds a little bit more dynamic to your costume. You could change the color, so any of those spectrums on the default mode can be achieved by simply just pushing the button. So whatever one you feel is most appropriate for your unique style, or if you want to go with all of them, you can go back to that rainbow setting right there. So that's it. I think it's pretty cool the way that works. It has the tubes light up for that assembly. Not too difficult to put together. If you have some basic soldering knowledge, you will have to do it that way, vice the hot glue gun method. I think the soldering just gives you a much better look to it. It looks more realistic, more authentic to the film. And like I said, it's not too difficult to do that. So this is just a close-up look. You can see really has captured all that detail of all the circuitry in there. A lot of these are real components. These are real capacitors. Yeah, there's no detail skimmed here. It is quite amazing. This is a real circuit board. This is not a 3D printed model that you're taping these things on. So really cool feature again. The only thing we did here on the back is we used some gaffer's tape to prevent all the little stubs from scratching this leather holster that we bought for it. We got this also through EctoLabs. It's just perfect size for holding this thing. And then of course you have the daughter board here that goes with it. Again, great detail on this. It doesn't have any functionality, but it does capture a lot of great detail and a lot of authentic components as well. One of the closest things we've seen to replicating the on-screen look, and the best quality one we've seen, if you can get a hold of it. That is, it goes up a couple times a year, but in very small batch quantities, so you're going to want to act on it immediately if you want to get this thing. But totally worth every penny if you could get one, and highly recommend it. So there you have it. That's the belt. Those are the accessories that we ended up putting in our setup for the Egon Spengler look. We hope these videos have been informative for you, for helping you figure out your own look or acquire your components for your Ghostbusters costume, particularly as we get closer and closer to the release of the HasLab Proton Pack. A lot of these things are going to be hard to find because people are going to try to play catch up and get everything they need to fill out the look, particularly the Alice frames we went over a couple weeks ago. Those are going to be harder and harder to find, so get those now before they disappear or go out of stock for a while. Hasbro did say that they're going to have some clips that are coming with the pack to give you the option to hook it up to the Alice frame pack, which is much more desirable than going with the basic straps. So this is the end of our Path to the Pack series. We hope you've enjoyed it. We have a lot of great reviews coming up for you. Of course, we're going to have some Halloween-themed reviews, so this isn't the end of our Halloween series. We haven't even started yet, so stay tuned for those. Until then, like, subscribe, and follow, and go to our website, cooltoyreview.com, for a lot more content, and we'll see you guys next time.